introduce yourself, please?
Okay, so my name is Esmeralda. I come from Belgium. I'm 28 and I'm currently in Ukraine on an EVS program. EVS is a European voluntary service. So it's a program organized and funded by the European Commission, and it's the concept of a long-term volunteering service in order to experience another culture and provide some social support and community development. And also one of the main objectives is to experience some personal development.
Tell us about the system of education in Belgium.
Belgium is both a simple and a complex structure. For the simple thing, I would say that it's legally compulsory to go to school from 6 to 18. So at least that's clear. That means we have two main structures, primary school and secondary school. Primary school are 6 years. And it's very easy to understand where you are because you are in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year or sixth year of primary school, and the same with secondary school. So again, you will be in first year of secondary school, second year of secondary school, and you go to the sixth year. So I, for instance, found out that in Ukraine it's 11 forms and children go to school until they're 17. For us it's until you're 18. But as I said, this is the simple explanation for the main classic structure, the one we call the general type of studies. So it's for someone who ultimately aims to go to university and wants to get the more general introduction to it. I should also say that, so you start when you're 6, generally. You could start a little bit earlier if you're advanced enough. That is to say, in order to enter in the first year, you have to be able to at least write your name, read your name, and count, I think, up to 10. So there is some form of preparatory schooling, but it's not compulsory. So if parents do choose so, because they're working or for any other reason, they want their children to go to school prior to being 6, they will attend kindergarten, and they can start going to this kindergarten at the age of 2.5. As long as they are what we call clean, that means they're not using Pampers anymore, and they can generally follow a group organization, meaning they can eat at certain schedule, certain time with the other children, like respect some rules of a group community dynamics. The reality is, from secondary school onwards, you can start to take a different orientation. There is what we call technical orientation, and that's usually around the age of 15. You will be asked to have more or less of a clear idea of what you want to do as a career, which I find is very early on. So in my case, for instance, it didn't work because I was asked to make this choice, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I thought, oh, I think I would like to work with animals and become some sort of a Cousteau or, I don't know, like Gorillas in the Mist. And so I thought, okay, I will study animal psychology, and therefore I would study biology and I would need science, and so I took the scientific orientation. So my last 2 years of secondary school, 5th and 6th year, I had many hours of mathematics and science. By the end of it, it became very clear that math and science was not my thing. And so I did reorientate towards languages instead. For other people, that's if you remain still in the general structure, that means you're aiming for university. So you can go for the scientific orientation, you can go for the language orientation, and have, so we always have English already in secondary school as a first choice. You can go for a second choice, like you can have German, you can have Spanish, you can have Italian, depending on the school. Some will provide even more choices. Or you can go for Latin, also as an orientation. That's if you maybe aim to become a professor, study linguistics, and that still this is for the ones who want to go to university. The ones who have maybe a more artistic side to them, and they already know it by the age of 15, they can go to this technical orientation where they will be trained already at drawing, and they will try to find out whether they want to become painters or graphists, if they want to work with computers, and they will start getting trained in that. But it's still school. They will still have to go to school until they're 18. But the orientation is already less mathematics, less languages, less geography and history, etc., and more art. The same way, if you know you want to become, for instance, a secretary, then you can have also some classes that teach you how to type, and so it's already looking more like professional, but you're still in a normal school. So that's the technical area. Further, if you know you're manual and you want to maybe become a plumber or an electrician, then there's the professional orientation, and that's entirely professional. They have barely any normal classes anymore. The rest of what they have, it will be very focused, like electricity, and there'll be a lot of practical training already. And by the age of 17, they exceptionally can not finish, but they do no longer have to attend school. This last year, it will be an internship in maybe a garage if they want to be a car mechanic. They will still be followed by the school. They will still have marks given by their employer. And they have a special status following the law. They can be paid, but up to a certain amount. There are very rigid laws that will say the rights and obligations of a young person under 18 working, and also with the employer, how much they should pay them, how many hours they're allowed to work, etc. So these would be the 3 tiers that you would have for us. We call it orientation générale, if you want to go to university, technique, if you want to be a graphist, an artist, painter, a secretary, and professional, if you want to be an electrician, car mechanic, plumber, etc.
And how long does your academic year last?
It will start beginning of September, usually the first week of September. We will have exams, so that's in primary school and secondary school still. We will have exams in about the period of Christmas. Then you have short holidays. I'm trying to think. I think it's just between Christmas and New Year. It might stretch to 2 weeks, but we'll not go over that. Yes, so in primary and secondary schools, you have your exams before Christmas. When you go to university, it's the opposite, because students usually use their holidays, the 2 weeks holidays of Christmas, to study, to prepare for the exams, which will be in January. It's not the case in primary and secondary school. You actually can enjoy your holidays. So you will start again in January, and you will follow on until June. And then in June you have the second period of exams. Should you fail these exams, there is the possibility of what we call deuxième session, so a second session of exams, which will happen during the holidays. So end of June, usually the 3rd week of June, all of the exams are finished, about the 19th and the 20th or the 20th of June. You get your results during that last week, and then people start going on holiday in July. And if you have extra exams to pass, you will pass them usually at the end of August. So that gives you right about a month to study for them. And then again the year will start in September.
And what technical devices are used at both schools and universities?
Because I'm a bit older, so I'm 28, by my time there wasn't much technical used, especially in primary school. Computers weren't widespread by then, but I'm sure that nowadays they probably would have already access to computers in primary school. So my first encounter with computers was later on, really at the end of my secondary school studies, because it's obviously a big investment for a school. And I actually had classes for that too, on sort of office management, office as in Microsoft tools, usage in my translation school, so when I was at university. Before then I didn't know much about computers really. in chemistry, you do have access to labs, and I think that's a bit of the same way around the world, whereby you have these test tubes and you mix some different elements and see what the results are. Hoping not too dramatic. I was pretty bad. I was born in the eastern part of Belgium, which is very close to Germany, which means that our system is rather strict, very very strict indeed. Actually, when in primary school, I am in a part which, being so close to, okay, Belgium has 3 official languages. Most people know about French, which is spoken mostly in the south of the country, and Flemish, which is spoken mostly in the north of the country. And some people forget that German is also an official language, but it's only spoken by less than 1% of the population, and this population is situated at the east of the country. So where I used to live, I was touching this region, and so we had this special status, which they call commune à facilité, something special that made so that I had already languages being taught to me in primary school. I had German in primary school. That's quite rare. In the rest of Belgium, you usually only get languages in secondary school. And therefore I had a German teacher, and he was very old school. He would make us memorize plays, every day a different play. Rolf van Giesel again, I'm sure.
Oh gosh.
And he would ask every morning any one of the children to stand up and tell the story, but without the book, just out of memory, to the whole class. So imagine when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, you're very timid. So it's already quite quite scary, but it's even more scary when the teacher is rather passive aggressive, or even aggressive, because when you got it wrong, the first warning was he would shout. The second warning was he would throw a chalk at you. And the third warning would be the sponge to clean the blackboard, but full of dirty, chalky water would be sent to your face. Nowadays he would go to court for this. But back then, because we were still maybe in the German soldier-like mentality, that was accepted. So it was quite traumatizing.
It's not a technical device, it's just
I think nowadays it's even you would go to now we've gone into a society that goes too far in the other sense, whereby you cannot say anything to a child because parents could complain, and now it's the teacher who's terrified of the children. Back then we were terrified of the teacher. So I don't remember why I mentioned this story. But just to illustrate that it was still an old school system in that mentality, and therefore it was not very interactive. It was one way. The teacher teaches the children. The children only intervene and reply when they are asked to. Obviously, I think now this has evolved a lot, especially with Adolf Steiner. It's a trend that wants children to not just open their mouth and swallow the information and then regurgitate it, just say exactly what they heard, but to think for themselves and to have a critical opinion, critical thinking. Something that you normally should learn at university, but even at university sometimes you can question it. In my case, for instance, translation, I felt this was lacking. We were being taught to be good little robots and not have personal opinions, just be some sort of mirror that would pass the information into the other language, but without adding our presence to it. So personally, I think this Adolf Steiner movement is really interesting, and I know a few of my friends who have studied from there, and you can see the results. These are people who are strong political activists or social-minded people. So I think it's a very interesting trend, and I hope it would spread a lot more in Belgium.
Thank you.